Okay, so I want to do a video on counter-offers, but before you switch off and think I've heard this message before, trust me, you haven't heard it coming from this angle. The purpose of this video is going to be to help you if you're one of two parties. One, if you are an employer who is in the position where you have a bit of a counter-offer problem. You have staff keep coming to you with counter-offers. How do you stop it? In this video, I'm going to tell you how to stop that and how to solve the problem. But equally, this video is also if you're an employee who thinks the only way of getting a pay rise is to engineer a pay rise. That's what I'm going to cover in this particular video. If you haven't watched the channel before, we do videos to help employees. But this year, we're going to do something slightly different. We're also going to do a few videos to help employers who are probably looking to improve their management skills, their recruitment skills, and their leadership skills. And we're going to put some content out to help those people as well. If you haven't watched the channel before, do consider subscribing to our channel by clicking the subscribe button, but don't forget to click the bell link so you're not going to miss any one of our videos. Firstly, let's clarify how counter-offers come about, because there are basically two ways that a counter-offer exists. One of them is either through what I would class as a legitimate or real reason for leaving, where someone is leaving their company and they've gone and accepted another job, and when they go into their current employer to hand in their notice, their current employer offers them more money. And when I say they have real reasons for leaving, it's probably reasons for leaving along the lines of, look, I don't like the hours, I'm not getting the training, the progression isn't there, the development of me personally, maybe the location, my circumstances have changed. There is a reason for leaving that can only be taken away by changing job for one reason or another. So therefore, the central reason isn't money. Sure, we're all going to be after a little bit more money if we can, but the real reason for leaving, the core reasons, if you like, aren't about money. The other way a counteroffer comes about is that it is an engineered counteroffer, i.e. the employee themselves knows what they want. They want more money, and the only way they see they can get that is by going into their current employer with a job offer from another company for a higher salary and getting their current employer to counteroffer them. So, how do you avoid these situations where you're an employer not wanting to be subjected to repeated counteroffers, or an employee who thinks, is there a better way than having to go in and try and rile up my employer every time I want a pay rise? So firstly, if you're an employer, how do you stop being subjected to continuous counteroffers? Maybe your business has found itself being subjected to several counteroffers and it's going on a little bit of a nasty tangent now. Well, the first problem is looking at your business and why you're in the position of having to dish out a counteroffer in the first place. Most businesses that I see that counteroffer people fall into one of two traps, and typically, and it's not unusual, to fall into both traps all at the same time, which leads to repeated counteroffer attempts. The first trap you fall into is you do not offer training. You might think you offer training, but training is developing people from outside of the skill set to be able to do the job that you do, and then be into the position to be able to bring them up to speed. If you don't have that, then you are only in the position where the people that you hire have to have the skills to do the job. Therefore, if you lose someone that can do the job, you do not have a ready-made replacement coming through the ranks because you haven't trained anybody up. That's problem one. The second trap businesses fall into is then giving into a counteroffer. You see, the big problem is if you give out a counteroffer to one staff member, people talk. All you're going to find is that other employees are going to come forward over their coming months and going, well, so-and-so, they got a counteroffer. I reckon I can get a counteroffer. I know they do the same job as me. I know they're the same value as me to the business. If they gave it to that person, I reckon I can get one as well. And it's going to be a domino effect and a nasty spiral. And when you go into that spiral, it's a very difficult situation to come out of. So you want to avoid going into both of those traps. How do you avoid going into both of those traps? Well, the first one is putting in a training program. Train people up from scratch so they can come through over a period of time and therefore replace experienced people. If you have people at different stages in a training program, if someone does leave, you have a ready-made replacement for them within the business. But the second benefit is if you have experienced staff members in your business, many of them, well, they want to pass on their skills and knowledge. If part of their job is then training and developing other people, they feel they have an extra value in the business. Plus, they're adding value to your business by passing on their own knowledge for no extra charge. If you've already got the experience in your business, utilize it. So many businesses that I speak to do not utilize the experience they have within their business. So if you don't have a training program, and whether you're a small or large company, you have to get a training program. If you look at any of your largest competitors in the industry, they will have fantastic training programs and they will train people through the development. You don't find companies that go on to be major competitors of everybody else who don't train anyone. The second thing you can do to stop people coming to you with counter offers is deal with the problem before it's an issue. When it's an acorn problem, deal with it then before it becomes a bigger oak tree problem. What happens is by the point someone feels that they have to come to you to get a counter offer, you have missed all of the signs that have led up to that point. That employee obviously feels that they either want to leave the business for legitimate reasons, in which case you haven't recognised the problems and haven't dealt with them, or they're trying to engineer a counter offer because they don't think you're paying them enough. Therefore, what you want to do is try and go in there earlier on. If you recognise you have an employee that you can't afford to lose, don't wait until they have you over a barrel to get more money out of you. Try and address the problem earlier by sitting them down, having a conversation with them, maybe giving them a discretionary bonus, one-off or something if you have a good quarter. Maybe be in the position where you give them a small pay rise. But key is you make it clear to them that we recognise the value you have to the business. We wouldn't want you leaving. So look, we feel it's only fair for us to step in and say to you now, when you're probably not expecting it, look, we really recognise what you do. We want to look after you. We've got some big plans for you moving forward in the business. And here's a show of our gratitude for you. You will find you engineer a lot of the problems that lead to counter offers out the way by looking after your staff with simple things like that. And in the grand scheme of things, probably won't actually cost you all that much. But let's say you're an employee. You don't want to be in the position where you have to keep riling up your boss to go and get more money by engineering a counter offer, and you want to avoid that. Maybe you've done it once or twice and you think, I'm having to push my luck a little bit. I don't want to keep burning bridges here. Is there a better way? The good news is, yes, there is. But to answer this point, let's give you a picture of how a counter offer comes about. You will see some recruiters sit there and give you advice, which in my opinion probably isn't the best, which is to go, look, go to your employer, let them know you're thinking about leaving and try and get a little bit more money and see whether they can offer you more money before you go to leave, and then see what they'll say. They probably will help you out. The reality is that probably won't work, and I'll give you the core reason why. You see, the way a business works is your line manager, you might think, has control over what they pay you, but they really don't. 90% of cases, your line manager has absolutely no control over what they pay you. In fact, that will be decided by people further up the chain of command, and that will only be affected if you put them in a position where you're going to leave. Hence why you will have people that are probably more experienced in a job that will go out and then understand that the only way of getting it is to engineer a counter offer. See, if you ask your boss for a counter offer and they're your line manager and they have no control over giving you a counter offer, and they then go to their boss and go, this guy's asked for more money, what can we do? All they'll be told to do is give them every excuse, make loads of promises, keep an eye on them, but, you know, do this, that, the other. Whatever you do, we're not going to get sign off on that. So just make excuses, say it's in the pipeline. And therefore, if you did have that conversation, what you'll find is every time you try and remind your boss about it, oh yeah, I'll get to that. Yeah, it's got to go through a bit of chain of command. We're going to have some things sorted out. I'll come back to you. And they'll keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. But as I say, there is a better way of doing this. If you're in the position where you have to try and get a counter offer from the company you're in the first place, then you're probably in the position where you're working for the wrong company. And I'm not saying you have to leave, but I would seriously consider it. If you're not getting enough money and you want more money, then you probably have to go elsewhere. And you're either falling into the trap of being someone who will then jump job every 18 months, 2 years, and work your way through companies, as some people do. They are career job hoppers, if you like, but there is a strategy behind it. I would never recommend someone to actively go and do this, because any good company will look at your CV and say, this person's a job hopper, we're not going to take them on. The only companies that are going to hire you are companies that are going to pay you more money to get your services on board and your skills on board because they need them, but they're also going to be the kind of companies that will want their pound of flesh. If you're comfortable with that, then you can go that route. But what I would say is probably look for a company and do your homework on a company rather than wait to be approached about more money, and try and go to a company that is going to be someone who will pay you more money, not because they have to or anything like that, but because they genuinely value you. Now you might be thinking, well, that sounds all great, but that doesn't really work in the real world. Trust me, we work and we cover several industries where we know all of the companies within that particular sector, and we know who the companies are that don't pay very well, and we know who the companies are that do pay very well. Often the companies that do pay very well, guess what? They're the same companies that end up training and developing people in those businesses. If you find a company that invests tons and tons of money into their training and development, and they have a very good training and development structure, you'll also find that they probably pay more than other companies that don't. For the simple reason that if they've invested all of that training and development over time, effort, resources, they don't want to lose that investment, so they're more willing to then go, we will pay you more money in the first place. So hopefully this video answered the questions for you. If you like what you saw in this video, as I say, do consider subscribing to our video. We are going to do other content for regular viewers who watch the channel and have stayed till the end of this particular one. Then we are going to do more content this year moving forward, but it is going to be a bit of a mix of content. You'll see the piece to cameras we've been doing, but that's more short, and that will be stuff that's, if I'm being honest with you, more aimed at our LinkedIn and Instagram to get marketing for the business. But these videos, these longer term ones, are more aimed at our YouTube audience who have been long-term viewers and have gone for a whole year of not having any content from us. Last year was very much for us a year with the pandemic where I needed to be very much involved in the day-to-day sales, involved in the grind of the business, and these YouTube videos take me some time mainly to edit rather than actually process. But this year we're on a proper growth spurt, we've got a bit of a structure in place, and my role within the business has moved more to the sales and marketing side of it rather than as much about the operations and getting in the nitty-gritty side of it. So hopefully we'll be able to bring more content, and I'm hoping to bring a video out on this probably every 2 weeks or so to keep you informed. So all those people who messaged, who liked the initial videos but wanted to go back to traditional content, this one's for you, and we'll keep some more content coming through. If you have any ideas for videos, do put them through, and hopefully you like this one, and see you soon.